what I wanted to talk to you about was finding sweeteners, how different sweeteners affect our blood sugar. So there's different types. So fruit, for example, fruit's healthy. We need it in our diet. We want to have about like a 1.5 cups a day of fruit. Different fruits affect our blood sugars differently. That is what we call the glycemic index. And so this can get very, very sciencey. So I want to keep it very, very basic. Something I know about Ceylon, which is the date syrup, is that it is a sweetener that actually has a very, very low glycemic index. It's a very low glycemic index sweetener, which means our blood sugar doesn't spike very, very quickly from it. So actually, as it pertains to sweetener options, it's a very, very good option because, again, it will be digested as sugar, the same way sugar, honey, agave, all of that will. But what won't happen is that our blood sugar won't spike up so quickly. And that actually is better for us. There are certain fruits, for example, like watermelon. Watermelon has a very, very high glycemic index, which means, it's higher, a little bit higher in sugar. And when we eat that, our blood sugar spike very, very quickly. And dates are an example of this. Usually fruits that have a lot of fiber have a lower glycemic index. And so our blood sugars won't raise as quickly. And this will help with many things. This will help keep us fuller for longer, not as much weight gain, and things of that sort. Date syrup's a really great sweetener because it is the lower glycemic index sweetener, and it's a really great sweetener to use. The moral of today's lesson is just understanding that fruit can have this effect, sweeteners can have this effect on our blood sugar, but there are better options, ones that are, fruits that are higher in fiber, and some sweeteners like date syrup, let's say, do have a lower glycemic index, so our blood sugars won't spike as quickly. And for people who do have diabetes, this is something that's very important to know as well. Berries, kiwi, those are very, very high in fiber fruit. Raspberries are like the highest in fiber, blackberries, raspberries and blackberries. So those are going to be very, very good options for us. Watermelon, for example, is pretty low. Banana, for example, are, higher in carbohydrates, a bit higher in sugar also. So also have a high glycemic index.
I'm making actually two things. I'm making fish. It's a codfish with capers and some tomatoes and things like that. And also I'm going to make a glow bowl. And you can basically use anything you want to use. I decided to just, I didn't go with a recipe. I decided to just go with my own recipe. And I'm actually going to do a cow base. So before I get started with the cow base, I made a salad dressing up with that I'm actually using honey, very little bit of honey, just like maybe a tablespoon of honey and mustard. So here I have my sweet potatoes. I'm just going to do half of these for now, just so everything fits on the tray. This is what I had. I literally raked through my refrigerator this morning thinking, let me see what I got, because it was just like, I want to do something. Then I have some cabbage. I love me some roasted cabbage. I spoke about that last week. I had some carrots and some cauliflower. This is an olive oil, which is good for sauteing and baking. I have preheated my oven to 400, and these veggies are going to be in there for about 15-20 minutes. So I'm just going to give it a little thing. I'm just going to do a little bit of salt and pepper. Truly, I don't even think you need much on these vegetables. They have so much flavor. And then like when you mix it with the dressing and everything else, get like that little charge and all that. And it's like just so yummy. Right, so I'm just going to spread that out. And I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to put it in the oven. 400 for about 15-20 minutes until the sweet potatoes are soft, and these are going to start getting crunchy, and I'll show you that in a second. Because I'm going to go to this. I have baby cow because, to me, it's easier to break down, but I still give it a massage. With cow, it's like a really tough veggie. This, to me, you have to kind of massage it and make it
always good to massage it. Yeah.
So I have a dressing here that I put together. I did it quick. Going to do that, and I'm just going to put my hands up again, and I'm going to massage it. Give it a little massage.
And that it kind of breaks it down and makes it a little bit softer.
Yeah, it does. And
yeah,
absolutely makes it.
And if you have the not baby kale, like the full grown kale, that's even tougher. So that can take some more massaging. Yep.
That's going to actually take a lot more time. Quickly to this point. These are some of the veggies that I roasted earlier. And I'm just going to stick them over the top. And I added beets to the final one and all that, like some fresh beets. But that will be your salad. Right, I'll show you the after later on. Right, now I'm going to do the fish. So I have tomatoes. All right, so this is my tomatoes, right? I'm going to grab the fish out of the fridge. I've already washed my fish with lemon right here, and I've already salt and peppered it. So I'm going to lay my fish down. It's all been salt and peppered. And we're going to do a couple of teaspoons of capers, and then I'm going to squeeze lemon on the fish because the recipe calls for lemon. It's a half a cup of lemon. And then we're going to do another half. Also in this recipe, it did say honey. I'm not putting honey in it. I tasted it without the honey, and honestly, it doesn't need it. And especially that we're going to have honey in our dressing if we want to add it with our bowl. You know, it has salt and pepper. Oh, and I'm going to add some garlic, some fresh garlic, which is already pre-chopped for me because I meal prep. Best thing you can ever do. All right. I'm going to give it a little bit more fresh parsley. And then that will go in the oven, and that is that. So that can go in the oven till it's fully cooked. You'll know when it's cooked when it breaks very easy, 145-degree internal temperature.
My rule of thumb usually for cooking though is like if you're not going to have a thermometer, I usually like to put it in the oven between 375 and 400 for at least 20 minutes. So between 20 and 25 minutes, and that's usually going to get you to the right temperature. That goes for whitefish, salmon, anything.
When you use your salad dressing, always use like a good tasting olive oil. It tastes so much better. If you get like some of these cheapy ones, they can taste a little bit, you know, harsh. But let me show you what I have. This is the result. Okay, so we have our glow bowl of our cow.
So pretty, Sam. Oh my gosh.
Actually really tasty. And then I have the fish with the tomatoes and the fresh parsley, and you can always dag a little bit of fresh parsley on at the end. And the water of the week this week is I had some strawberries and lemons and some fresh mint.
Really haven't done like a dessert. And I actually have some really good dessert recipes that are, you know, a little bit healthier. I've actually been eating mug cakes like all week because it takes literally 3 minutes to put together. And it's just such a good indulgence. And it like really just hits the spot. And I find for people who are sometimes looking after dinner for something a little bit sweet, but they don't really want fruit. And I won't say have this every single night, but it's just a really, really good, easy thing to put together. Using just regular all-purpose flour, I actually have 1 tablespoon of regular all-purpose flour and 1 tablespoon of whole wheat flour in here. You can use all whole wheat, but it definitely doesn't come out the same. But I find when you mix it, it actually works just as well. So I have 2 tablespoons of flour in here. You want to take a tablespoon of unsweetened cocoa powder. So any kind, it really doesn't matter. And by the way, this recipe just smells so good when it's in the microwave. It's unbelievable. So then we have our cocoa powder, and we're going to do our dry ingredients first. And then the next thing we're going to do is about 1/4 of a teaspoon of baking powder. And of course, with baking powder, especially since it's not going in the oven, you really do want to make sure that we're using the correct amount and we're not using too much or too little. That's what's really going to help form this batter and help it rise in the microwave. So those are really our dry ingredients. I'm just going to grab a fork so I can whisk these together. The next thing we're going to use is date syrup. So you can really use any sweetener you want in here, but I'm really, really liking date syrup lately. It's pretty easy to find. You're not going to find it in every supermarket, but now you can find it on Amazon. And now lately I find it's very easy to use. It's a little bit thicker, but again, it has this like lower glycemic index. So I find it's really a very, very good option. It's like a very Middle Eastern sweetener. They use this a lot in the Middle East. It's very, very popular there. They use it a lot on like fish and poultry, like in, you know, marinades. So I'm going to do a tablespoon of that. That goes in really, really nicely. It slides off. It's also not as like sticky as honey, so it slides off like measuring spoons a lot easier. Then I'm going to just mix all of that together. that's technically still considered a dry ingredient. Even though it's wet, it doesn't actually wetten up. So you want to just put all that together. And then next thing we want to do is we want to add 2 teaspoons of coconut oil, but we want to melt the coconut oil first, because it's going to just become a lot more uniform and it's just going to mix better. So we're going to put the coconut oil in. I'm actually not always such a fan of coconut oil, but it just works really nicely and it helps make this batter nice. And you're going to see that this already is really, just from that alone, is already starting to like batter, like become a batter. And I'm going to show it to you in a second after I put in the almond milk. So we're going to use, you can use any plant-based milk. I like to use just unsweetened almond milk. You can use regular milk if that's what you have or that's what you want, but I always like to keep desserts more plant-based. That's just my preference, but you can really do what you want. And then we're going to mix that up, and already I'm going to show you in 1 second. It's already really starting to become a batter, and it's like amazing how all these ingredients just like fully make a really delicious smelling cake batter. And I'm going to show it to you before I add in the vanilla. You see, it's like really cake battery.
Oh yeah,
if you can see that consistency,
yeah.
like it's really looking like a cake. The last thing I'm going to do here is just add a little bit of vanilla. Vanilla is definitely optional. I love putting vanilla into desserts. I find it just gives a really nice taste. It gives it a nice smell. And again, here's what it's going to look like going into the microwave. You can also add some chocolate chips before or after. I am going to add them on top after. Something else I also like to add to this, anything plant-based, they sometimes usually does get like pretty rich. I like to add some coconut whipped cream on top. I don't have now, but I was using some this week and it's really, really delicious. So now I'm going to go put this in the microwave for about a minute, and I'm going to actually let you guys actually just see what this looks like after a minute. The one I made before, it looks good and it tastes good, but the mug, I used a clear mug. So it's like, it's a very thick batter, so it's not so beautiful, but I will show it to you, but I'm going to more show it to you more for consistency purposes. You're going to see how this really looks.
Oh, like
yes.
That is,
and it's like,
yeah.
so
yeah. Like we're all
actually,
like on now.
Yeah.
It's actually delicious. It's really, really good when it's hot, when it comes out fresh, and it's so easy to make fresh. So there's no reason not to. This I made about an hour ago and it still tastes so delicious. The perfect amount of sweetener. It's not too sweet at all. It's fluffy. It's not even too rich. It's just a perfect indulgence. Really easy to make. It's easy ingredients to have. Again, if you don't have the date syrup, you can use sugar, or you can use honey, and you don't even really need to use sweetener if that's something you don't care to have. And now let me just my microwave. So I'm gonna put it in for another 30 seconds. It's looking good, but it's still a little mushy. We want it to get a little bit more cakey, but again, this is the consistency. It really did come out looking like a cake. Again, it's not the most beautiful looking thing, but this is just for our own purpose and not something we're going to serve to a crowd. This is it. Very hot, so you want to be careful. It's not so beautiful, but it's actually delicious, and it's
beautiful to me.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's chocolate.
Yeah,
chocolate's beautiful.
Yeah. I'm kind of a little jealous over here.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I'm like,
and it smells in my kitchen like I just baked a cake in the oven. That's how it smells. So this is a really, really, really good, easy recipe. And there's so many different recipes online. They're great for like single serve indulgence.